Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, Alaska's pipeline to the future, delivering oil today, sustaining operations for tomorrow, committed to safety, operating the 800-mile Trans-Alaska Pipeline since 1977.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for another live edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite imagery, looking at yesterday's, had a band of clouds here across the southern southeast coast that had moved northward down from the Queen Charlotte's a weak low off to the southwest. A lot of clearing with some variable cloudiness here over the interior, mostly some variable clouds, lower type clouds in areas of the interior there. But pretty sunny here across all of the southern areas, right down into the northern panhandle. A little bit of moisture right there that was threatening Kodiak Island with a chance of some rain yesterday. That had pushed off today, and you can see that's all the way over here. And still some lingering clouds here over the southern southeast coast. But temperatures still managed to rise into the lower 50s down there. And lots of sunshine here, again, south of the Alaska Range. There across southern Alaska, nothing but sunshine here, Kodiak Island and northward. A pretty clear afternoon over the interior, but back here to the west there was a lot of lower clouds and some fog again today, extended in areas here up into Norton Sound and then a little ways into the interior. And there were some variable clouds here over portions of the central and eastern interior, but generally a light wind day with little or no moisture. And then up along the Arctic coast, a band of clouds, low clouds with some fog and flurries slipping southward up there. Really hard to tell. You can kind of make it out right through here. That came south of Barrow and the skies cleared out there, but still some light snow and fog in over the north slope back toward Atasuk and Wainwright, and then clipping areas of the eastern Arctic coast. And a big storm out here that brought storm force winds, 50 to 60 knots. Ahead of the front here, edging into the eastern Aleutians. Actually this morning, Nikolsky seen winds gusting close to 70 miles per hour. So there are storm warnings out for this area through tonight until the front pushes eastward, clearing off to in advance of that. And the rain not showing up yet here at Unalaska, but up to the Pribilofs there, winds on the increase, coming up well over 40 miles an hour in gusts earlier today. At St. George, may be higher than that right now. And then coming back around, the cold air, snow, 34 degrees at Chimio with north winds 40 to 50 miles an hour turning northwesterly. And that coming down this afternoon as the gradient slackens off. And the milder air in over Adak and Atka with some rain there and gusty winds, but not as strong as they were in advance of the front. And looking at this again, you can see how this area of cloudiness is sort of lingering there over the panhandle, over the southern areas. Really broken up though. No precipitation with it, although there were some showers here just to the east in British Columbia. And on the chart today, shows up right in this area, a little bit of moisture there, but nothing getting west of the border. And lots of sunshine here. Gulf of Alaska clear all the way up into Prince William Sound. And then some variable cloudiness, otherwise light winds and sunshine here over the interior. High pressure causing the light wind conditions, and that allowing the low clouds and fog to hang in along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas and back out over the St. Lawrence Island region there. And there's that narrow band of precipitation and mostly just some lower type clouds there. And that extends back out towards actually an upper level trough. And we'll see tonight this front, as I mentioned, storm warnings out tonight here for the eastern Aleutians, possibly ending from over the western areas there, St. Nikolsky, after midnight tonight, but wind and rain spreading into the Alaska Peninsula. Looks like just high-end gales occurring here, although there could be some storm force gusts, places like Cold Bay, and gales for sure right up into the Pribilof Islands, but precipitation will fall in the form of rain there with some fog and showers back behind. Drop off in the winds here right behind the front, and then they'll come back up to possibly gales from the south here, or there will be gales from the south and southeast back into the Aleutians there, associated with the main low center over toward Kiska and Amchitka, and then kind of a windy condition back toward Shimia. Otherwise, high pressure along the Arctic coast and over the interior, nothing too terribly strong, but you can see a distinct lack of any gradients. So that's going to mean light variable winds. Even down into Kodiak Island, the Gulf of Alaska, light variable winds there, as well as the panhandle areas. Could be some variable clouds tonight with some flurries, patchy flurries or fog, especially up here along the Arctic coast. Look for patchy areas of fog, low clouds with marginal VFR scattered around the entire coastline here all the way down into the Bering Strait. And winds on the increase now along the southwest coast gradually, especially later tonight. Nothing too strong to start with. And eventually into Bristol Bay, those winds will start to come up a little bit tomorrow, maybe easterlies, 20 knots for Bristol Bay in the late afternoon hours. Otherwise, gale force winds sliding their way up the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow, but the front and the whole gradient weakening as it goes. So kind of hard to say whether Bristol Bay will see any gale force winds at all, but it looks like some of that stronger wind will eventually get up to the southwest coast here. The main low center tracking eastward now, just south of Atka at about 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, with much lighter winds back to the west, and the storm force winds will be especially early in the day here over the just south of the Pribilofs and mostly over the southern Bering Sea, but by tomorrow afternoon the front should weaken enough to where we're just looking at gales. And again, no wind here along the North Gulf Coast with a lot of sunshine, an upper level trough right in the interior here, a very weak, you can see it in the upper air, and that's I probably got this a little more ominous looking than it will be. There'll just be some variable clouds with areas of flurries, but tending to be on the increase up here, especially down toward the Alaska Range. And then another trough bringing some lower conditions and a chance of very light snow, non-measurable, and patchy fog. But that looks good for quite an area of marginal VFR with patchy areas of IFR to exist up there on the western Arctic coast. Even on the east side there, winds will be a little more easterly, but nothing stronger than about 15 miles an hour, otherwise light and variable everywhere else. A little more of a breeze here, St. Lawrence Island. And again, down along the southwest coast, got gale warnings coming into the Kuskokwim Bay area, south of Nunivak Island, especially around Cape Newenham. They'll see the strongest winds. And a mostly sunny day again, but variable clouds to partly to mostly cloudy over toward the border there. And most of that moisture should stay in Canada there, but there'll be a little greater threat of that tomorrow afternoon. And for the Tuesday outlook, we have that initial front here just sort of stretch across the Bering Sea, much weakened from what it originally was. So it looks like 15 to 20, maybe 25 knot winds here, especially the western portion of Bristol Bay. Light precipitation, mixed precipitation, very light rain or snow with that. And then another low center pulling just south of Kodiak Island. So look for the rain to be on the increase there, especially over the southern areas. That could extend all the way up to Fognak Island there, but the big push will be off to the east. And now we're looking at this upper level low sliding southward with higher pressure aloft back along the west coast now. So that trough's going to drop into the Gulf of Alaska, and that should kick off a circulation here, and it'll actually increase the clouds and the chances of snow showers late in the afternoon, possibly Cordova, back toward the Kenai Peninsula, and also along and north of the Alaska Range here over the eastern Tanana Valley, 40-mile country. Look for variable clouds to mostly cloudy to overcast with a better chance of some light snow in this area and even back toward the Denali Park area. Should stay mostly sunny here, Cook Inlet, Madanuska Valley, back to the north and west with this front really washing out here as it just stretches across Kodiak Island and into the north central Bering Sea. And a couple of troughs, that one now swinging over to the eastern Arctic coast. No wind with that to speak of, just that lower cloud condition, the marginal VFR to areas of IFR as that moves off to the east on Tuesday. Temperatures today 38 this afternoon, all 4 p.m. readings at Anchorage, 39 at Kenai, 40 degrees down at Homer, lower 40s across much of the North Gulf Coast, 44 at Kodiak, and across the Panhandle again mid 40s to lower 50s. Ketchikan 50 degrees and 30 degrees up in Gulkana, while the Talkeetna area had 37. Same thing here at Nenana, but Fairbanks 30 degrees, 33 at Tanana, and a 21 at Bettles. Anatuvik just 16 degrees, 30 at Fort Yukon, 33 at McGrath, with Sparavon at 29 degrees, mostly in the 15 to 20 degree range here through the Brooks Range, and a little below zero up there in the Arctic coast. Barrow at -2 and -3 at Atusuk, 4 degrees at Kaktovik, 3 degrees at Point Lay, and there's a 7. That's at Deering, while Kotzebue had 10. Shishmaref on the north coast of the Seward Peninsula, 14 degrees, a little milder there at Nome, with 17 at St. Michael, and lower to mid-20s here along the coastline, with 27 at Tuksuk Bay, 28 at over at Savunga. Pribilof's in the mid-30s, Adak and Atka in the mid-40s, and then the colder air out toward Chimney with the snow, 35 degrees there, 39 Dutch Harbor, and temperatures ranging from the upper 30s to mid-40s, with Chignik at 45 degrees, but considerably cooler in over at northeast Bristol Bay. And again, some of the areas of clouds holding these temperatures down, like Bethel, just at 21. For the lows tonight, into the 20s and 30s across the southeast coast, mostly in the 0 to 20 degree range here over south central Alaska, with more 20-ish temperatures, 20s anywhere from 23 to 28 here out along the outer coastline, 29 for Kodiak, well below zero up over the north slope in the Arctic coast, right up to the Brooks Range, but everyone should be pretty much above zero here south of the mountains except from Eagle, falling below zero again, down into the Copper River Basin areas, and teens out along the coast here, 31 St. Paul, 14 at Gamble. And for the highs tomorrow, single numbers to just zero over there on the east side of the Arctic coast, but into the teens and 20s and 30s to near 40 again, possibly. That'll probably, any 40s will probably be south of the Alaska Range in the Susitna Valley, all the way down to south central Alaska, where Seward may see 44 tomorrow, 45 to 50 again across the southeast coast, warmest toward Ketchikan and Annette, and lower to mid-40s for the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, upper 30s for the Pribilofs. Flying weather, again, upper level disturbance here, right through there, so to the east of that trough axis with a little more lift, could see some marginal VFR areas associated with those regions of light snow. So it's really hit and miss through this area here. Some of that could slip on into the north side of the central Alaska Range there and affect the Windy Pass area. Lower stuff right along the coastline there with patchy areas of IFR. It looks pretty good here along the southwest coast, those southeast winds keeping the lower stuff out to the west, but banked up there along the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula with IFR up across the Pribilofs. Clearing out behind the front, winds drop off and things improve considerably there, then drop back down with the main low center that's coming just to the south of the central Aleutians. Anatuvik VFR again tomorrow, as well as Adigan, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, look for another day with wide open conditions. Rainy VFR, but windy, possibly coming down, especially on the northern entrance, so kind of a VFR becoming marginal VFR tomorrow afternoon. So it's something of a change from what we've seen for the last week or more. Isabel, though, should be VFR. It's not to say no clouds will show up on the north side, but if they do, they should be higher than marginal. And for Tanita, VFR. Portage, same forecast. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels tomorrow morning north of the Pribilofs here on the surface there, cutting in towards Pilot Point, and then right up along the southern Kenai Peninsula, cutting through the northern panhandle there with 2,000 to 4,000 feet down toward Dixon Entrance and the Queen Charlottes, and then that strong south and southeast wind flow pulling that warm air right up, the whole thing shifting eastward here, so the warmest air aloft will be right through here and then kind of wrapping back around the north side of that center as it tracks off to the east to the south. And for icing possibilities here, look for a possible occasional widespread moderate maybe along and just on the lee side of the Alaska Range and near the frontal boundary here as it edges up toward the Pribilofs. Otherwise it scatters out, less of a chance of seeing any icing over the western Aleutians. Icing free here over the remainder of Alaska. And the winds aloft showing now high pressure back in over the western part of the state here. So north-northwest jet up to about 90 knots here, with an upper level center is really too small to put on here. But again, that'll drop into the Gulf of Alaska and start to increase the moisture down here over south central Alaska. On Tuesday, there's a storm in the Aleutians. And at 9,000 feet, hit of a trough here, southeast winds becoming northwest 10 to 20, and that all tending to slip south and southeastward. Otherwise, high pressure, light winds, strongest winds out along the coast and in the Bering Sea. And again, 40 to 50 knot winds edging northward, but the whole pattern weakening with time here. Light variable winds over much of the interior, very light westerlies into the panhandle. Turbulence pretty smooth here over most of the interior, all the way down the panhandle. Light to moderate chop here showing up along the coast, and then moderate turbulence Cape Newenham, possibly severe here for the Alaska Peninsula, and in advance of that front as it passes through the Pribilofs, and then getting better through the afternoon. And when I come back, we'll take a look at the marine forecast.
Our travels took us all over southern Alaska from Sitka to King Salmon. On the way to Novarupta, we passed through Brooks Camp at Katmai National Park and Preserve and happened to arrive during the annual salmon run. We stumbled across scenes you have to see to believe.
Because there's no hunting in the Katmai Park, the kind of approaches we're getting here are a lot closer than where we would, say, on Kodiak Island, where there is hunting.
Our close encounters with bears happened in 2 different park locations on subsequent days. First, we flew by float plane from Kodiak Island in southwest Alaska across Shelikof Strait to Hallow Bay. Bears were everywhere.
In Katmai Park itself, there are about 3,000 bears, about 1 bear for every 3/4 of a square mile.
Joe Murphy was our veteran bear viewing guide.
The way the bears are measured is from the tip of the nose to the base of the tail. These bears are the coastal brown bear. They're actually a subspecies of the grizzly. The largest grizzlies go 800, maybe 900 pounds at the very most. These bears are almost double in size.
Why so large?
Because the food is so good on the coast.
These bears are digging for clams. They're also fond of grasses along the Katmai coast.
They don't have a reason to kill us. They don't have a reason to. You know, they're very smart animals. They're not.
Oh no, here we go. Now what do we make of this?
Looks like she's just tired of clamming right now.
She won't come our way.
Not unless she's looking you right in the eye.
We're within 50 yards of these bears, but this is not a position you put yourself in without knowing exactly what you're doing or being here with the experts who understand these animals and the way in which they react.
If a bear is approaching you aggressively, he'll look you right in the eye and he won't break eye contact. Polite for the bears is just a quick glance and then look away. The bears are very used to the idea that people come with their camera, take their picture and go away.
These bears have to be among the most photographed in the world. They're fishing for king salmon at Brooks Falls, located some 65 miles inland from our beach bears on the Katmai coast.
We have some special etiquettes for the platform areas.
Again, safety comes first. No one gets in here without taking a bear class. There are gated bridges and viewing decks at Brooks Lodge and Falls. They're here to contain visitors, not the bears, that have a free run of the place.
Katmai is a very special place. Allows us to get close to the bears because we have such a rich food source, a rich salmon source. So bears that are usually solitary animals will even tolerate each other closer and will tolerate us closer because they're so well fed.
We got a kick out of watching the various fishing styles. There are the underwater scanners. Some just sit and wait for the salmon to swim by. Fishing takes great patience, even by the best. You know what they say about patience.
It's absolutely unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like this. You have 30 bears in the water eating fish, grabbing them out of the air. It's absolutely incredible.
This mama bear was so good at catching fish that other bears stood just below her and her cubs, waiting for scraps. Sometimes they'd hit the jackpot.
Incredible. magnificent. Words can't explain it. It's everything we thought it would be and more.
All set? Yeah. All right. Whoa! We had only one scare. A baby bear slipped off the falls behind us and right into the path of an adult bear. Males frequently kill cubs, even their own. Fortunately, this cub managed to scramble against the strong current to return safely to its mother's side. Some bears devour their catch on the spot. Others carry them into the woods near the viewing decks. Sometimes they get close enough to reach out and touch, though you wouldn't dare.
When I worked in Denali, I had to be a mile away from bears, and then in Sequoia it was only black bears, and again, a much further distance. So to be this close and to see the bears interact on a daily basis is just amazing.
As we've seen tonight, Alaska can be a land of incomparable natural disasters, but also amazing beauty and splendor. And the irony of our 49th state is that much of this beauty is a byproduct of these extreme forces of nature. For my producer, Pam Grimes, and for photographer Steve Shore, I'm Tom Skilling in Katmai National Park. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Welcome back. We'll look for northwest breezes here at about 15 knots or so out along the coast, and really light winds over the southern inner channels to northeast, but only 10 knots. Strongest area probably be Lynn Canal, northerlies up to 20. And then for Tuesday, very light winds everywhere here. 10 knots out here along the coast, varying directions, variable 5 to 10 over the inside waters. Looking at a weak ridge of high pressure extending right over the area. So winds will be a little more south or southeast, but quite light out along the coast. And for the Prince William Sound area, light variable winds again. Same thing for the North Gulf Coast tomorrow. Light variable winds with lots of clear skies on up into Cook Inlet. Variable for Kamishak Bay. Westerlies maybe at about 15 here through the Barren Islands. Otherwise, Kodiak Island looking at southwesterlies, 20 knots or less at times throughout the day Monday. And then for Tuesday, kind of a switch around in the winds here. That low coming by the southern island there. So northeasterlies up to 20, turning west or west-southwest in the afternoon down farther to the south. Easterlies 20 to 22 or 3 knots here. Could be minimal small craft advisories, but not too bad. Light variable winds. More easterly, though, for the North Gulf Coast, and staying light and variable for the most part of the day Tuesday. All day Tuesday here for all of Cook Inlet, 10 to 15 out of the east there for the Kamishak Bay and Kachemak Bay as well. And then for the Bristol Bay area, gales tomorrow, northeast 35 knots. Gales here for the Alaska Peninsula, ending from the west in the afternoon. So this will probably be late to mid-morning time frame, and then coming down late tomorrow afternoon. 35 knots there southwest of Kodiak. And then for Tuesday, probably hanging on to some small craft advisories here for the Pacific side of the peninsula, but down to southeast at about 20 on the north side. Easterlies 20 knots here over the western part of this zone, and more of a 10 to 15 knot wind. They're coming down to 15, even 10 knots as you get into the east and northeast areas. And for the Aleutians, looks like again the storms tonight, and then the front moves through. They drop off to southwest 15, and then come back up again 25 to 35 knots here, with a low center coming by to the east and get back into that gradient again, but much lighter back out to the west. And then for Tuesday, these areas, westerlies up to 35, but easterlies 15, picking up to 30 knots, central Aleutians, and dropping back again. And for the southwest coast, gales tomorrow here, and I see the, okay, there we go. And for Tuesday here, Nunivak Island to Cape Newnham, Kuskokwim Bay, brisk wind advisories there, 25 knots. St. Paul, 20 to 25 knot winds with a Pribilos, both St. Paul and St. George. And the northern Bering Sea here looking kind of 20 to 25 knot winds with mostly a northeast direction now, or an east-northeast direction. And up along the Arctic coast, basically easterlies, 5 to 15 knots from the central coast all the way over to Demarcation Point. Pretty light and variable here on the west side, nothing very strong at all. And for Tuesday, that light wind pattern continues, maybe a little more northwesterly here for the western and central coast, northerlies there, Cape Lisburn down to Shishmaref, and variable winds along the east side. For tonight, again, variable clouds and a few flurries, otherwise light winds and no change there. This big storm bringing the storm force winds are keeping them over the eastern Aleutians and the Bering Sea tonight, and then that really weakens as it continues eastward. A little bit of better chance of snow south areas on Tuesday. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
You can tell a lot about a company by where it invests. At ConocoPhillips, we're investing in Arctic science and engineering at the University of Alaska Anchorage. And we're supporting today's students and tomorrow's engineers at UAF. In fact, today, more than 100 of our employees are University of Alaska graduates, and our future is in their hands. We happen to think that's a pretty good investment. ConocoPhillips, Alaska's oil and gas company.